And now I think we are ready to move forward with our second panel of the event entitled Academia Industry Alliance. Now allow me to invite our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Professor Deepak Sharma, as the moderator for the panel. And for the panelists, join me in welcoming Dr. Thitapha Samithinon, Executive Vice President, National Science and Technology Development Agency, or NASDA, our next door neighbor. Dr. Benno Bao, Chief of National Sciences, UNESCO, Bangkok. Mr. Warawat Suwakon, First Executive Vice President, Head of Siam Commercial Bank Academy. And Professor Thamarat Kuttate, Professor of Environmental Engineering Management here at AIT. And now I'll yield the floor to the moderator.
Thank you, Thanisa, for the introductions. And greetings and welcome to all those who are joining this session, those who are present here and those who are online. The topic for this session is Academia Industry Alliance, the Common Ground. I'm sure you will agree this is a topic of great interest and of significant relevance. We are very fortunate today to have four most eminently qualified panelists to share their views on this topic with us. And I extend on behalf of AIT and my personal behalf, greetings to you all and express gratitude for the time you've taken to come and join us today. In order to set the ground for discussion on this topic, let me present a few pointers. Academia and industry are two central institutions in any modern-day knowledge-based society. Academia, through their academic discourses, are primarily involved in knowledge creation, and industry predominantly is in the business of transforming this knowledge into applications through the development of processes, products, and services which are needed by society. By this reasoning, one would expect that academia and industry are natural allies, and that the relationship between them must be spontaneous and seamless, underscored by examples after examples of successful collaborations and good outcomes. Well, I'm afraid the reality is, however, somewhat different. Yes, there are lots and lots of examples of collaborations between the academia and industry, and indeed many of these have led to successful outcomes. But I think, in my view, they are far short of what would be expected between or from two parties who are natural allies. So the questions for us are, why is it so? What are the impediments to developing lasting relationships between academia and industry? And how can we overcome these impediments? Well, this is a topic of immense, which has been debated a lot over the years. In fact, this is one of the most debated topics in the management field. The prolific use of some of the constructs derived from management. For example, triple helix concept, which stresses the importance of government policy settings in influencing academia industry outcomes. And then the quadruple helix, where civil society was thrown into the mix. And more recently, the quintuple helix construct, which brings in natural environment and the importance of natural environment in shaping academic industry relationships. I think this is all a testimony to the importance of this topic. And notwithstanding the intent behind these constructs and the useful insights they have indeed provided over the last so many years, I personally believe that these discourses are somewhat limited. Why so? My reasoning for that is that they are stylized constructs which derive their legitimacy from rather obscure, if I can say so, postmodernist type of concepts and paradigms from social theory and management of the yesteryears. They, in my view, disregard the influence which informal institutions like beliefs, customs, value systems, and the demand by citizenry for equity, justice, and all those things, they undermine those influences. And if I'm allowed to say, I'll go to the extent of saying that it is in these informal domain reside possible pathways which could help us identify the common ground on which we can build lasting academia and industry relationship. Now, with these remarks, I would like to now invite the panelists to share with us their views on this topic. So may I first invite Dr. Thithapa to share with us her views, please.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm from National Science and Technology Development Agency, or NASDA, your neighbor around here. And we have, basically we are research centers, but where I'm from Technology Management Center of NASDA. And we act as the kind of bridging between academia and industry. Sorry, I don't have the presentation. And TMC, let me call my organization as TMC, Technology Management Center. We have two missions, like the first one, we support SME. We have many mechanisms to help SME to increase their competitiveness. So each year we work quite a lot with the industry. And on the other hand, I'm helping to connect NASDA researchers to industry as well. So while I'm working, so we try to integrate the two together. Okay, and normally when you talk about collaboration between research and industry, there are actually two major approaches. The first one, when you finish your research first, and then you try to commercialize it, you go and look for industry and try to license it. And of course, nothing is perfect. You have to modify or do further research with that afterwards. But actually, I think the other way would be better, like to get the company or industry to work together with the researcher at first, at the start. And then I think company, the key success factor would be that company would have to know the market, to know what the result or product that they will bring to people. And then that would help with the kind of setup specification for research to do their output, okay? And for that, the specification, in addition to what user needs, they also have to, one important thing is also the price. Because if it's too expensive, because researchers, they tend to use the high-tech technology, what chemicals that is the best, because they used to with what the output of publication. So what they need is the state of the art of everything, but maybe that is not applicable for research. So I think we need to talk at the beginning and try to make make it possible to commercialize and produce it commercially as well. And this also will be, I think another important thing is also the confidentiality and publication. You have to compromise between that. I think most of the industry that they come and to researcher, they don't need the very basic research, but mostly it's the applied research. And it means that researcher has some IP or knowledge already. So I think that's another thing that you have to talk at first and agree on that, what to be, what are researchers and what are companies, the IP. Yep. And now the other point is that the level of technology, as I mentioned before, that the researcher have done their research work using the state-of-the-art technology, but when they talk to industry, they have to adjust a bit and understand the industry, what capacity they have, what is the appropriate level of technology for them, like they have to invest on the machine as well. So many things that they have to talk about. Like if they use higher technology, they probably need more investment, and that may not be suitable, and that will bring the failure of the project. Yep. And they have to think about the limitation as well for each technology. The industry should know at first what would be the limitation. Yep. And one of the other important to make the collaboration between researcher and industry to be successful is that you have to talk about the goal at the beginning. Like we have the program called ITAP, Innovation and Technology Assistance Program, who helps SME to upgrade their technology and find the right expert to give consultation or do R&D project for them. The first work that they have to do is to try to make the same picture of the industry and researcher together. So they are sure that what they will get after the project has been done is the same, and that will eliminates all the problems that may occur and will make the industry and academy to work together successfully. Yep. I think maybe I'll start with that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You have raised some very important practical issues which arise when you try to bring the research and the industry together. Thank you very much for your thoughts. May I now invite Dr. Beno to share his perspective with us, please.
Thank you, Professor Deepak, and thank you very much for AIT and Professor Edenwoon for inviting UNESCO here. Let me also tell all of you that we have just recently established a partnership agreement between AIT and UNESCO. We are very happy about that. And maybe that could also be indeed a model between industry and academia, form partnership agreements long term, because short term doesn't really make sense. If you could be so kind and put my presentation onto the screen, then I just talk you through my words. The picture shows a slide that has been taken in the Cat Ba Biosphere Reserve, the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in Vietnam in March last year, and it shows you the amount of plastic waste that has been taken out of the Biosphere Reserve over a 2-day period. So every 2 days, municipality takes that amount of plastic out. So Academia Industry Alliance, the common ground. Sorry, I can't really read that so well. Introducing knowledge is the key role of universities. How can academia and industry identify common ground? I believe we have the common ground already. The picture illustrates a common ground. These are issues that we have. So we should also switch our mental model of thinking. Me, industry, or me, academia. It should be us. Us, 7.8 billion people in the world and growing. So the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them being applied in most countries of the world. Some countries have 18 development goals. They are giving us the common ground. They are prescribing the challenges and hopes of humanity. And before that, it was the Millennium Development Goals, and before that, it was the 1972 Stockholm Declaration. So this is all very well formulated now in the SDGs. The second common ground is a more recent common ground. I think everybody in the world suffers one way or the other from the impact of COVID-19. Here in Thailand, thanks to a good management and good statistics, we are suffering much less than people elsewhere. So the pandemic reminded us that we are vulnerable. But behind the pandemic, there is other pandemics that were there before, still exist: HIV/AIDS, SARS, MERS, Ebola, and now we have COVID. But behind that, there is longer-lasting issues that we are all suffering from, and we will suffer from that much more in the future than now, if we don't prioritize that and take it serious. Biodiversity loss, climate change issue. In 2018, we celebrated. Professor Woon questioned the term celebration at that time. World Environment Day beat plastic pollution. In 2019, we celebrated beat air pollution. These are all issues that is our common ground. And the United Nations is now 75 years old. UNESCO, my organization, also 75 years old. We made a survey this year, and we interviewed a large number of people, and people said that they want more solidarity between countries and people. We heard that with the election of Biden, maybe we will get there a little bit more and speak a little bit more respectful for a change as well. And so people also said that they are very much concerned about climate change issues and environmental degradation. Next slide, please. So that is already our common ground. The most challenging things for young people is possibly expressed in the SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, because our cities and communities are not sustainable. We heard Harald Link from BGRIM saying that the glass of the buildings in Bangkok, for example, is not suitable to retain energy. So making cities, like especially mega cities like Jakarta and Shanghai and Bangkok and other mega cities, making them sustainable, it's a major challenge. And it can only be achieved with industry and academia together. So academia and industry should form long-term partnerships. And these partnerships, they should very strongly consider ecological reconstruction. Of course, industry must make profit. We all know that, otherwise they will go bust. But behind the profit, there's other obligations. And the obligations are manifested in the SDGs and in ecological reconstruction. The way we humans behaved in the last, let's say, 150 years, we have put our common life support system, our ecosystem, planet Earth, out of balance. We need to revert putting it back into balance. It can only be done with academia and with industry together and with green economy. Next one, please. Yes, I think this is the last one. So the reality of issues is these issues, they exist. And the picture that I have put here is a picture that we've taken recently in Thailand. Thailand, in comparison to other countries, is managing its mangrove ecosystems very well since the 1970s. We used to have 32 million hectares of mangroves in the world, very important for blue carbon sequestration and ecosystem services. And so this picture symbolizes ecological reconstruction. That is a mangrove restoration model in Samut Songkram in Thailand. So I believe the common ground exists already.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Benno. This was very thought-provoking comments there. You raised the notion of mental models, and also I noticed on your slide you had the ethics as the common ground, as well as SDGs acting as anchors to really identify common ground. Indeed thoughtful. Thank you. May I now invite Dr. Borawood to present his perspective, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Let me address your questions through the small example that we have worked with AIT and also the government agencies like DEPA. Let me start with giving you a background about SCB Academy. Right? Almost 4 years ago, SCB started our transformation journey in order to address all the disruption in technologies and the competitions in the banking industry. And we decided to set up a corporate academy called SCB Academy. And our mandate, excuse me, and our mandate back then is to reskill and upskill our people to be able to survive and thrive in the future of work, given that the disruption will have a negative impact on certain careers like branch officers and operations people, given the automations and all that. So that's what we have been working over the past 3.5 years, trying to get our people ready and well equipped with the future skills. And then early this year, we have in the process of doing this, and we cannot say that we have been 100% successful in reskilling and upskilling our people. I think it's still a lot of work to be done at the bank, but we suddenly realized that we can definitely extend or leverage the lessons we have learned in doing this reskilling and upskilling for the benefits of the Thai people, for the benefits of the public. We can help people that will be disrupted in the future, trying to get them be equipped with all these future skills as well. And we believe that what we can do in order to scale it, our mission is to help create 1 million opportunities for Thai people over the next 5 years. That's pretty stretch and challenging, but we believe that in order to do that, we need to operate our academy as a platform. Right? We have been hearing about successful business over the past 10 years, setting up a platform business and conquer the world. Right? So we're trying to follow their path and set up an education platform or an upskilling platform called, in Thai, it's called Plenary, which could be translated into English as into two meanings. One is the good citizens or a digital citizens. Right? That platform we started in April, right, with an intention to attract both sides. One side is the content owner or the content provider, whether it's academic institutions, the training companies, or anyone who has the knowledge. Right? And on the other side, we're trying to attract the learners, or we're trying to engage the learners to come and really develop themselves and give themselves a chance or an opportunity to be reskill and upskill, and hopefully they can seize the opportunities when it comes in the future. So that's what we would like to do, and we already started in April. And one of the projects, or one of the first projects to make this platform happen or move forward, we were lucky to get a chance to work with AIT and DEPA on a program called Data Analytics for Upskilling, right? Where we would like to help Thai people to get up to speed on data analytics at the basic level. Right? So anyone without background in data or in information technology could join this program and become more proficient in this field. At the beginning of the project, we only target for about 400 or 500 participants or learners. But at the end, we have attracted 5,000 learners onto the program, right? Very successful. But the more challenging part now is how can we help them complete the program? And our target is at least 20 to 25% completion would be a success for us, right? But this is a good example because AIT has all the resources, the teaching resource, the teaching methodologies, and all the knowledge about data analytics, right? And SCB, we have been trying to help our people get up to speed with data analytics for the past 3 years with all the success and failures. We have learned our lessons, and we have the practical side of the perspective of this. So we bring this together to create a program that we hope that it will be practical enough that people, once they have learned or they master the skill, they can go back to their organizations or to their workplace and really adopt this new skills or this new knowledge in their real work. And we're also fortunate to have the government office of government agencies like DEPA to help support this. So it become a very successful project for the beginning of this platform, right? And recently we also launched a second program called Coding the Future, or trying to equip the Thai people to know how to do the coding or to do the programming. And we work with the Thai Programmer Associations and Microsoft in doing that. Now we have about 2,000 learners enrolled in the program, right? And yesterday, we also launched the bigger program called PMD 47, which would like to give Thai people all the foundations and all the future skills, whether it's about design thinking, data analytics, lean, agile, and all the soft skills that people would need to thrive in the future of work in this program. And last night, we launched the program officially, and we got about 700 people join. So it's a small example of how we can collaborate between the universities and the enterprise, right? And it's not only for the benefits of the business itself, but we can also extend it to the public, right? And I believe that this could be one of the model that we could follow and create more impact to the countries.
Thank you, Mr. Borwood. Thank you. These are very thoughtful comments. In particular, I liked your mention of that you're trying to create good citizens as well as digital citizens. You know, that's what probably I was alluding to when I said informal institutions. So thank you for sharing those thoughts. Now, may I now invite my colleague, Professor Thamarath, to give his perspective on the topic.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Deepak. So I'd just like to share a bit of that, our experience to work with the industry, in particular to our research projects that we link to the industry. It is not very common for us to link directly to the industry, but we having a kind of the forced engagement by the donors that we have to do, otherwise they will not give the grant to us. So that I took up that the challenge from the industry, from the donor point of view, is that we need to work with the industry closely, otherwise I will not get the money from them in particular. So let's start with the presentations, please. Next slide. Yes, the slide is about that. The toilet project is not that very fancy, in particular that you talked about the upskilling, reskilling. Why do we need to reinvent the toilets? We use that for many 100 years in the past, but what do we do with that? Why the Bill and Melinda Gates themselves interest to invent or reinvent the toilets? It is because they found out that they cannot produce the vaccines that can kill all the germs, but if they can do if only the toilet is clean enough and also that not release any germs into the environment. So AT is one of the grantee of the Gates Foundation, and at that time, and then we have to produce not only the publications or the number of graduates, the PhD or master degree students. So we need to produce at least the prototypes that bring to the discussion with the industry. So next slide, please. So we end up with that certain innovation that the toilets, many toilets, or the treatment technology for the toilets. We have the company, we have our partners that works with us and try to redesign the toilets, and also how we do the research. And then as mentioned about that, the cost, we also need to do the cheap enough, the cost. If it is so fancy, of course, by technologies, we can use the super technologies that can clean and can clear all the germs, but it will be very, very expensive. So that we come up with a certain technologies that we can do. And then can you get to next slide? Our difficulty is that we can produce lots of that outputs from our research, from our experiments that we are doing from the gas validation, the support, but we have to try to sort out that who are the potential industry or the company that can work with us. We cannot do the industrial process design. We cannot do the prototype design, for example. So we have to work with them, and then I think that at that time we don't have the capacity or the mechanisms to link with that. Can you click another slide, please? Then get back, yes. So we need so-called technology incubation units that we develop technologies, we develop the know-how, but we need an incubation unit that helps support us to link to the right industry. So at that time, we are kind of the blind, the people that sort out who are the potential industry that can work with us to bring the toilets into the market. And also that the marketplace, the Gates Foundation said that, well, we should not look in only for the Thailand, but in the regions who would be the potential markets, so that we have to get out into the other countries that how can we sell the toilets, how can we sell the products. So that would be another thing that we need a lot of that common ground to work with the industry. If we can work at the starting point, it would be much better. We take many years for that to sort out this kind of problems. So next slide, please. Then next slide, please. Yeah. Yes. So with the permission of the former president, we set up a kind of the unit so-called the Ink Square that having the management of our IP. Of course, that the first thing that we need to develop the IP, and then the license, how can we link with that? So that would be help the researchers, the faculty members, or the students to work out that if we have the know-how or the technologies, how can we link to the industry? And then that helps us a lot. And then another things that we have heard from the industry is that what are the user needs in the realm of the academia. We will say, well, this would be the best technologies, but as you said that it would be too expensive. But what about the user needs that we can trigger into the markets? And of course, the toilet is not that so sexy market compared with the finance or compared with the digital market. No, it's not. How can we drive the market is another problem that we may not have enough market to bring the industry or the investor to this kind of toilet business. Next slide, please. Yes, that I think that at least in the diagram as professors, we can draw this kind of diagram nicely, but in practice, it's not that easy at all. That how can we attract the industry to work in the common ground, that especially in the way that it's not so sexy themes or businesses like the finance, like the banking, like the digital technology or satellite technologies. We are working on the simple toilets. And then I think that we need to think about that as Dr. Bendo has mentioned about the SDG. That would be a kind of the global grounds that we think that it should be helpful, that instead of that waiting for the donors to work on this kind of new innovations, but why don't we think that the industry and academia can work together? And then of course, I would not believe that the NGO types would help to solve the problem of the development. But I'm certain that if the industry work academia, we can work faster and more sustained in the future. That's what I would like to share from the academic point of views.
Thank you, Professor Thamarat. Thank you very much. You might say that your topic is not sexy, but definitely it's a very important topic, you know. And also I liked your emphasis on understanding the user needs. That gives rise to, you know, a better understanding between the two sides, and lead to useful relationship, building of useful relationships on the basis of that. If I can now dig a bit deeper and ask probably a question each to all the panelists. Let me start with Professor Thamarat, because we are just fresh with your presentation. It's often mentioned that right strategies for partnerships between academia and industry would foster innovation. And industry would, and it turns out that universities turn out graduates with skill set which are aligned to industry requirements and provide support for sustainable growth and development. As a successful academic who has been closely collaborating with industry, what are your expectations and experience in the domain of academia-industry collaboration?
Well, I would say that it's not that easy at all to set the firm commitment from the industry and academia. Of course, as we have heard that or the business persons or the industry or the investor, they look for the return of investment anyway. So that it is not easy for us to convince them that, well, how should we jointly work in these interventions or innovation that we can do not for the sake of the money, but for the sake of that, the development of the people health or the SDG. It's not that easy at all. So that on one part, we may need another stakeholders like the governments or the UN agencies that, yes, you need to prepare a good environment or the conducive ecosystem that the industry and academia can work together, and with the benefits that the industry or the investment can get the benefit back from that. Otherwise, it is like, academia, if we are interested for the toilet, for example, but I can work in the certain scale that we cannot apply for all, or we are not able to sell for the others. We need to partner with that. But at the beginning stage, it would have no return to the investors. That's why I think the other stakeholders is quite very important, that how we can subsidize that. Otherwise, we may not be able to meet the SDG. That's what I would like to share.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very good response. Thank you. Mr. Borawoth, you mentioned about the academy that you had set up. Some large, your corporation and some other corporations have also set up their own academies over the last so many years. This is presumably because your corporation and other corporations find the existing university system to be inadequate in terms of meeting their human resource needs. Can you provide some insights into how universities and corporations can work together so that corporations do not feel the need to set up their own academies?
Yeah, I don't think, first of all, I don't think it's about the university not ready to fulfill the needs of the corporations, but as we are all well aware, right, you cannot expect to send your people to universities or academic institutions, get trained, get the new knowledge and skills, and come back and ready to roll with this new skills, right? It's not that simple, right? So I believe it's the operating model, that how we work with the university, because the key of the learning, in order to get the maximum benefit out of your investment, right, from your training spending, it's about, at the end of the day, it's about the adoption of that knowledge and skills in their real work and create an impact within the organizations. And in order to do that, training is just one part of the whole framework or the whole system that needs to, that you need to put in place, right? Whether it's about the process itself, the policy, the procedures that are supportive for people to bring in these new skills at work, or it's also about HR system, human resource system that align with these new skills, that really encourage people to really adopt these new skills and knowledge, and they know what's in it for them, right? And it's also about leadership role modeling within the organization that keep communicating, keep reinforcing about the importance, the rationales why we need to do this, or why do we need to change from the previous culture or operating model, right? So it's the whole integrated system that needs to be put in place. So I think the business or the corporations need to work with the universities and put all these key drivers in place to make sure that the trainings becomes effective. Right? So it's not about just training it's not good enough. I think training, the content, the knowledge, it's there. I think it's the quality is already good enough, but the matter of bringing in technology and translate into the impact to the organization, that's probably the key. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Dr. Beno, your organization deals with multiple interests: government, scientific community, industry, and academia. What role do you think can an organization like yours play in facilitating the creation of stronger academic and industry relationships?
Thank you, Professor Deepak. I'd like to answer that with a few examples of UNESCO Bangkok. And UNESCO Bangkok is the largest UNESCO office in the world outside headquarters in Paris. First example, yesterday we celebrated the World Science Day for Peace and Development, Science with and for Society. And we invited a large number of industry to participate, to be with us. BGRIM was just one of them. We invited many, but we also invite companies to be presenters. So yesterday we had a company that is registered in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, in UAE, and in New York, called Papini. They are dealing with educational instruments as a presenter, and they could present to academia, and we had 5,700 people registered. So that exposes them. It catalyzes potential partnerships. So UNESCO can function as a catalyst. The night before, I was invited to lecture at the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, which is a relatively new initiative based in Paris and in New York. So they have a lot of oil companies, and are basically, in the debate, it turned out that we don't know very much. We know a lot of mangrove ecosystems and salt marsh ecosystems, but not very much about seagrasses. Those immense blue carbon ecosystems that are below the seawater surface, because you need to go diving if you want to study them. So the outcome was that we encouraged 11 major international oil companies to get together with academia and map the seagrass beds of the world. That's a second example. On the 1st of October, we had the 3rd Mekong Mangrove Forum. And again, we invited academia and the private sector industry to be there. This time we didn't invite Papini, they were also with us, but we invited the largest company in the world, Saudi Aramco, to give us a presentation. And they are now in process of, not only with UNESCO, but also with academia, to explore the possibilities of long-term partnerships. The plastic initiative that we have also in partnership with AIT, we are mobilizing partners, including the private sector, and you have the plastic abatement program here, supported by Japan. That should further be supported, not just by a member state of UNESCO, Japan. It should also be supported by the private sector and academia. We cannot solve plastic pollution without academia. We need to have more biodegradable, more degradable, and more recyclable plastics. That can only be done by academia, but it should be supported in partnership by industry, in particular by the industry that is producing plastic, and by academia that is using plastic. So plenty of that. Just give me one final, we have developed a system called floating mangroves. So 67% of the world's surface is seawater. We have developed a system to put mangroves afloat on the oceans. They can produce biofuel. That needs to be researched as a prototype. Cannot be done without financing and without the interest from the industry, private sector. So the catalyzing of this, yes, UNESCO can do a lot, but it's a lot of work and it needs maintenance. It basically needs a whole team to do this continuously and all the time.
Thank you, Dr. Beno. And the final question is for Dr. Thithapa. Conducting research that is both practically applicable and scientifically sound, while also making social impact, is a continuous challenge for scholars and universities. Can you provide some insights how universities and industries can work together to solve complex challenges ahead of us, and how can agencies like NASDA facilitate this?
Okay, thank you. Actually, now we have started thinking about the industry of the future. I think that would affect the society. You know that you will hear the word good health, aging population, that kind of thing. If you think of the future industry and you have come back and look at the research output and then try to make it, try to commercialize it. But now we will see that from lab and to market, there are many ways, something like the medical equipments, or for aging people, maybe like an assistive device. You need to do many things from lab to market, like to do the testing, make it the product more standard and comply with all the regulations, get registration. That kind of thing is kind of obstacle to produce a new product into the market for the future industry. So what we're now trying to do is to support, connecting to kind of funding, networking, help with marketing, everything that make them sell, make them be able to sell the products. And then if we can provide that as the integrated service platform, I believe that there will be more industry to come and start talking to researchers to do project, because they know the way to commercialize their product. So that's the approach that we take at the moment. And like last year, we try to kind of create the integrated service platform for assistive device for elderly and disabled. And the other one is functional food. So I think we would use that approach to keep the collaboration between academia and industry together. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thethapa. I wish we had more time to continue with this discussion, but I'm sure there'll be opportunities to continue our dialogue through the platforms which will be provided by AIT Enterprise Alignment now to continue this discussion and to come up with some interesting ideas which we can implement in the times to come. Please join me in thanking the panel for their insights they have provided on the topic and for their contributions to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator and panelists. An equally inspiring panel indeed. And we are concluding the morning session of the event with a lot more to come in the afternoon session. We will have 3 separate panels concurrently conducted at 3 venues. Panel 1, entitled Sustainability, an Opportunity for Businesses, with a keynote speech from President of Bangda Corporation Company Limited, will be conducted here at this auditorium in hybrid mode. Panel 2, entitled Technology Innovations Shaping the Future, Adaptation by Businesses, will be at the AIT Entrepreneurship Center, also in hybrid mode. And panel 3, entitled Digital Transformation Pathways for Businesses, will be conducted purely online at AIT Smart Lab. But first, let's have a short midday break. For the on-site guests, please proceed to the dining hall just to the right of the lobby for lunch. Meanwhile, our online participants can visit various exhibits and virtual booths. All panels will begin again at 1:15 p.m. Thailand time. See you after the break.